Well, I'm pretty much selling everything I've got.
It will eventually happen. The day when a producer decides to hang it up and retire. For Robert Chupp, a Mays County cow-calf producer, that day is today.
I've been raising cattle and farming and baling hay, and I'm 68 years old, and it's time to slow down.
Robert recently sold off all of his cattle, and today he's liquidating nearly every asset he has in an auction. Although Father Time is catching up to him, age isn't the only reason he's leaving the farm life.
I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm kind of wore out. And 4 or 5 years ago, the commodity price as far as cattle was really good. But then over the last 3 or 4 years, it's kind of been going downhill some. And I had an opportunity to buy a retail store, so I'm kind of taking my assets in that direction.
This is a common situation for many Oklahoma producers. Oklahoma State agricultural economist Rodney Jones says there's been an uptick in producers liquidating assets to curb financial strain.
We're in about our 6th or 7th year of pretty low commodity prices, seeing some financial stress show up, and we have people sometimes that have to liquidate some assets just to kind of get themselves back on their feet and move forward financially.
There are several reasons why producers would sell property, and there's several ways they can go about making a sale. Auctions are a popular method for producers selling multiple assets like Robert. For moving single items, social media sites like Facebook Marketplace are also popular. Although it may be easier to sell today than before, it's still a complicated process.
Well, they need to think about how much cash they need and why do they need the cash and for what purposes, and that's going to help them create kind of a list of things that might be on the table to think about liquidating. We always make the recommendation that we start thinking about selling those things that are the least critical to your operation.
Machinery that isn't being used or equipment that can be easily replaced fits into this category. For more cash flow, producers will need to look at assets that are critical to the operation.
Kind of a last resort is usually the core asset that we have in agriculture, which would be the land, but every once in a while we find a situation where somebody needs to generate quite a bit of cash, and of course that's where a lot of the cash is tied up, is in the land.
For Robert, he and his family did a lot of planning and preparation before today's auction, though he feels he could have done more when it comes to tax implications. Something he recommends producers think about before liquidating.
Yeah, I think they should. I definitely think they should. Something I wished I would have checked out a little more as far as the tax liability on, liquidating like this.
For Robert, the decision to liquidate all of his assets and move on to a new opportunity wasn't an easy decision to make. He's been a cow-calf producer right here on this land for more than 40 years, and it's a bittersweet end.
To be honest with you, if this other opportunity wouldn't have come up, I might still hang in it for a couple more years. This is all I know.
So JC, talking with Robert, he mentioned that he had done a lot of preparation when he was about to liquidate his assets, but he wished he would have done a little bit more in regards to tax implications. So what are some tax implications producers need to think about if they're going to liquidate an asset or assets?
Okay, you've got really 2 major parts. You've got the machinery and equipment, and then you've got your land. So the machinery and equipment creates a requirement for depreciation and recapture in the year we sell it. So no matter what happens, you're sold, we have to that's recaptured as ordinary income at the ordinary income tax rates, and those can be quite significant. Land, it's a capital gain asset. It gets a preferential tax treatment because the capital gains rates are much lower than the ordinary income tax rates.
So let's continue talking about the depreciable assets. What are some things that producers need to think about in regards to that?
One thing to think about is how much depreciation recapture will there be. For example, you buy a tractor and you depreciated it out over its useful life, and it goes to the depreciable basis is 0. You sell that thing for, say, $50,000, that's all ordinary income in the year sold. So you've got a lot of this, and typically farmers have depreciated everything down to 0, so it's all of that income is ordinary income due to the depreciation recapture.
And there's a variety of reasons why producers would need to liquidate assets. Not every situation's like Robert. Every situation's going to be different. But if a producer is looking to sell some land, that there's ways that they can minimize the taxes that they could occur, right?
Correct. Installment sales is a great tool for reducing or minimizing taxes, especially on land, because what you've got is the ability to spread that income over 2 or more years. And by doing so, you only pay tax on the amount that you receive as a payment in that year. So if you spread an installment sale over 2 years, you're going to pay tax over 2 years, half of the tax bite in each of those. If you spread it out over 10 years, you can kind of see the concept of we're spreading the tax bite out over a period of 10 years. And by doing so, we can really manage how much we do pay in terms of capital gains tax on the sale of land.
And a lot of this information that you gave, you know, it's really complex and it can be a struggle for a lot of people. So, but Oklahoma State does have some resources that can help producers, you know, move around a situation like this.
Correct. The Farm Transition Handbook is a great tool, because what we're looking at in there is ways of farmers getting out of the business and different tools they can use, different tax aspects to think about. So it's a great tool to begin the process of thinking through the sale of the farm business, or the transfer of the farm business from one generation to the next, or from one person to the next.
All right, thanks, JC. If you'd like a link to that farm handbook, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.